Chapter 19: The Organs and Agencies of the UN. Get set. Take your school as an organization. Except learning, there are many things to be done to run a school. Survey your school and find the answers of the following questions. Who hears the problems of the parents or students and solve them? Who maintains the record of the students? Who decides the fee and other charges for the students? Who manages the extracurricular activities of the school? The United Nations organization operates through its 6 major organs. The United Nations family, however, is much larger, encompassing 15 agencies and several programs and bodies. The 6 major organs of the UN are the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, the Trusteeship Council, the International Court of Justice, and the Secretariat. These organs help the UN to carry out its objectives with specialized agencies. The General Assembly. The General Assembly is the most important and the largest body of the UN. It is composed of all the member nations. Its members meet annually at UN headquarters in New York City. All member nations have their representatives in it. The General Assembly can discuss and make recommendations on any matter within the scope of the Charter. It has been called the town meeting of the world. It normally meets once a year in the month of September, but its meeting can be held at any time if there is some urgent or important matter to be discussed. Decisions in the General Assembly may be made by a simple majority vote or on important questions by a 2/3 vote. It also approves the United Nations budget, and it decides how much money each member nation should pay to run the organization. Smaller nations have a great deal of influence in the General Assembly because each country casts 1 vote. The Security Council. The UN Charter established a Security Council made up of the 5 nations that in 1945 were considered the most powerful in the world. The Council's primary function was to maintain international peace and security. The 5 permanent member nations are the United States, the Russian Federation in place of the former Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, France, and China. The UN Charter requires that the permanent members agree on all decisions made by the Council, except for questions of procedure. If even one permanent member votes, rejects a Council decision, that decision is defeated. The Security Council also has 10 non-permanent members. They serve 2-year terms. Each year, the General Assembly elects 5 new nations. These nations are chosen from all over the world. This helps ensure fair representation of all regions. The Security Council is considered always in session. Each council nation must have a permanent representative at headquarters in New York, so the council can meet on short notice. The Economic and Social Council. The Economic and Social Council works under the general guidance and control of the General Assembly. It is composed of 54 member nations that serve 3-year terms. 18 are elected per year. There are no permanent members, but it has been customary for the nations of major economic importance, such as the United States and the Russian Federation, to be re-elected. The Council deals with major economic and social concerns. These include economic development, land reform, and control of narcotics. The Council also coordinates the policies and activities of the United Nations and the various specialized agencies. The Trusteeship Council. The Trusteeship Council was established to the General Assembly supervise the administration of territories placed under trusteeship. These territories were primarily former colonies of European nations. All the territories originally placed under United Nations trusteeship are now independent, so the organ is not working at the moment. The International Court of Justice, ICJ. The International Court of Justice is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. It is composed of 15 judges. They are elected to 9-year terms by the General Assembly and the Security Council. The judges are chosen based on their qualifications rather than their nationalities. However, no nation may have more than one judge in the court at any given time. The International Court meets at The Hague in the Netherlands. The court has two major jobs. It settles disputes submitted by nations for final decision, and it gives advice to other UN organs and agencies. Its advisory opinions do not have to be accepted, but they carry great weight. In disputes submitted to the court, however, its judgments are supposed to be followed by all the parties. Chirpy says, the UN Secretary General is elected by the General Assembly. Find out who holds this post at present. Pakistan caught one Indian, Kulbhushan Jadhav, on charges of espionage and sentenced him to death. At this, India took this case to the International Court of Justice, which accepted India's petition. The Secretariat. The Secretary General heads up the Secretariat, the administrative organ of the UN. The Secretary General may bring any matter to the Security Council that seems likely to endanger international peace. The General Assembly and the Security Council, as well as the other two councils, may give the Secretary General special duties to perform. The Secretary General appoints the staff of the Secretariat under rules approved by the General Assembly. The staff must be international. That is, each one of the many member nations must be represented. However, member governments are not allowed to influence the staff. In general, the UN Charter emphasizes that the Secretariat of the United Nations should be an international civil service. It should serve the interests of the organization and only those interests. Agencies of the United Nations. The organs of the UN are its essential parts. In addition to them, the UN has 18 specialized agencies which deal in specific matters. They mainly work for the well-being of people in different countries. Let us know about a few of them. United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF. The UNICEF is doing a great work in child welfare schemes. It was established in 1946 and its headquarters are located at New York. It runs programs like disease care campaigns, daycare centers, and school food plans. It also holds child education and teacher training programs in different countries. For example, the Anganwadi in India is run by the UN agency. It gets its funds from the member nations. It also runs some business activities to earn money, like selling greeting cards and gifts. World Health Organization, WHO. The WHO was established in 1948. Its headquarters are located at Geneva, Switzerland. It has 194 members. It functions in different countries with the chief objective to promote health, especially prevention and control of diseases. It conducts campaigns for eradication of different diseases like malaria and tuberculosis. It promotes the use of vaccines and trains health workers. It also advises the member nations about epidemics or fatal diseases and how they can be tackled. Its work encompasses provision of safe drinking water, health care for mothers, immunization programs, provision of medicines, etc. United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. With its headquarters at Paris, France, the UNESCO works for promotion of education, scientific knowledge, and preservation of ancient art and architecture. To achieve its objective, it conducts exchange programs on scientific and cultural issues between different nations. So as to cultivate international understanding, it also works for promotion of literacy and technology, especially in the underdeveloped countries. Its meeting is held once every 2 years. International Labour Organization, ILO. The ILO was set up in 1919, and when the UN was formed, it became its agency in 1946. Its headquarters are located at Geneva, Switzerland. It looks after the welfare of workers all over the world. Its functions include work for social justice, improvement of living conditions and living standards, and promotion of economic stability of these people. Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO). With its headquarters at Rome, Italy, the FAO was set up in 1945. Its chief objective is to raise nutrition levels and living standards of the people all over the world. It tries to improve production and distribution of food articles and other agricultural products in different countries in order to realize its objectives. India and the UN. India is a peace-loving country which maintains cordial relations with almost all countries of the world. To spread the message of peace, it has become a member of several international organizations, one of which is the United Nations. India is one of the founding members of the UN. It regularly takes part in its meetings and programs. It extends support and cooperation in many UN programs with the finances as well as personnel. It is an active member of the UNICEF, UNESCO, WHO, and other UN agencies. A number of Indians have held important posts in the UN and its agencies. Vijayalakshmi Pandit was the first woman president of the UN. Dr. S. Radhakrishnan headed the UNESCO. A number of Indians have worked as judges of the International Court of Justice. India also contributes peacekeeping forces to maintain law and order, establish peace and prevent war in different countries. Many UN agencies work in India. For example, the WHO conducts its polio vaccination program here, and the UNICEF conducts the Anganwadi program. Chirpy says, some other important agencies of the UN are United Nations Development Program, UNDP, International Monetary Fund, IMF, International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, International Civil Aviation Organization, ECAO. Think a while. Discuss with your teacher and classmates that how these organizations are helpful, particular in case of India. Quick review. The General Assembly is the most important and the largest body of the UN. The Security Council has 10 non-permanent members. The Economic and Social Council works under the general guidance and control of the General Assembly. The International Court of Justice is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. The UNICEF is doing a great work in child welfare schemes. The WHO was established in 1948. Vijayalakshmi Pandit was the first woman president of the UN.